Welcome back to the ABC General Hospital Spoilers channel. Today, we will dive deep into the explosive revelations from Wednesday, November 19th, where hidden truths erupt, loyalties shatter, and deadly schemes take center stage in Port Charles. In the shadowy undercurrents of Port Charles, Jason Morgan finds himself at a crossroads that tests the limits of his bond with Britt Westburn. As tensions simmer in the aftermath of recent betrayals, Jason is compelled to deliver a heartfelt apology to Britt, but it's laced with the sting of rejection when he firmly declines her desperate plea for assistance. Britt, her eyes filled with a mix of vulnerability and determination, had pinned her hopes on Jason's influence to coax young Danny Morgan out of hiding and into the light of confession, all to shield Rocco Falconeri from mounting legal peril. Yet Jason, ever the protector with a pragmatic edge, counters that Danny's innocence must remain untainted, his hands clean from the fallout of this tangled web. This standoff highlights the intricate dance of trust and sacrifice in their relationship, where Jason's code of loyalty clashes against Britt's urgent need for resolution. Adding layers to this emotional rift, Britt grapples with the fear that her request might push Jason further away, potentially unraveling the fragile support system she's built amid her own health uncertainties and professional pressures. As the scene unfolds in a dimly lit corner of the hospital, Jason's stoic demeanor cracks just enough to reveal his internal conflict, underscoring how personal stakes amplify the drama in every decision. Meanwhile, across town at the bustling Port Charles Police Department, a pivotal moment arrives as Danny Morgan and Charlotte Casadini step forward with confessions that could rewrite the narrative of Rocco Falconeri's troubles. In a Tuesday episode twist that builds toward Wednesday's chaos, these young allies summon their courage to surrender themselves, driven by a fierce loyalty to back up Rocco's account of the chaotic events. The air in the interrogation room thickens with anticipation as they face off against Detective Dante Falconeri, meticulously shifting the spotlight onto Giovanni Joe Palmieri, whose own recent admission has only muddied the waters further. Danny, with his youthful resolve hardened by family legacies of resilience, articulates how Gio's involvement escalated what started as a misguided prank into something far more sinister. Charlotte, drawing from her Casadini heritage of cunning survival, adds vivid details of the night's frenzy, painting Joe as the instigator who pulled strings from the shadows. This united front not only aims to exonerate Rocco, but also exposes the fractures in teen alliances where peer pressure and hidden agendas collide. Dante, torn between his paternal instincts and duty, probes deeper, questioning if external influences like the enigmatic Professor Henry Hank Dalton manipulated the entire ordeal. As the confessions ripple outward, they force a reevaluation of guilt and innocence, revealing how one impulsive act can ensnare an entire circle of friends in a web of consequences that Port Charles won't soon forget. Lulu Spencer's world teeters on the edge of heartbreak as she wrestles with the agonizing dilemma of protecting her children amid the escalating fallout. Long before Danny and Charlotte's bold move, Lulu has been haunted by the idea of urging them to turn themselves in, a sacrifice she contemplates solely for Rocco's salvation, yet it threatens to doom her daughter Charlotte to the unforgiving grip of the justice system. In a tense family discussion that bridges into Wednesday's developments, Lulu voices her fears to Dante, admitting that while Charlotte's role was peripheral, the confession could brand her as complicit in a narrative spun by darker forces. Dante, his detective's mind racing, challenges her perspective, pondering aloud if Rocco's predicament stems partly from his own choices, a notion that Lulu fiercely rejects. She pivots the blame squarely onto Professor Dalton, the calculating academic whose vendetta has inflated Rocco's minor infraction into accusations of grievous misconduct, including fabricated evidence of tampering and deceit. This analysis of Dalton's machinations unveils a broader pattern of institutional corruption at the university, where ambition overrides ethics, ensnaring students like pawns in a high-stakes game. Lulu's emotional turmoil deepens as she envisions the long-term scars on her family, from courtroom battles to fractured sibling bonds, emphasizing how parental love becomes a double-edged sword in the face of unrelenting scrutiny. Enter Jen Sidwell, whose simmering rage boils over into a chilling blueprint for vengeance that promises to upend the fragile peace in Port Charles. Sidwell, a figure shrouded in mystery with ties to shadowy research initiatives, fixates on Professor Dalton as the root of all disruptions, viewing him not just as an obstacle, but as a malignant force poisoning their collaborative endeavors. In a clandestine meeting with Marco Rios, Sidwell's voice drops to a venomous whisper, proposing that eliminating Dalton would eradicate their woes, in one decisive stroke hinting at a permanent solution that sends shivers through the room. His temper, usually restrained behind a veneer of calculated charm, erupts as he recounts Dalton's latest interference, from sabotaging Project Data to rallying authorities against their group. This outburst reveals Sidwell's deeper motivations, a blend of professional paranoia and personal grudges, perhaps stemming from a past academic rivalry that Dalton exploited to climb the ranks. As he sketches out the plan's logistics timelines, alibis, and discrete methods, Marco's uneasy compliance underscores the perilous allure of Sidwell's leadership. Fans can sense the escalating danger as this fatal scheme intertwines with broader threats, potentially drawing in unsuspecting allies and turning Port Charles into a powder keg of intrigue and retribution. Britt Westburn emerges as a force of unyielding resolve, issuing an ultimatum that could ignite the powder keg surrounding Sidwell's deadly intentions. Whether in her charged exchange with Jason or a more direct confrontation with Sidwell himself, Britt's words cut like a scalpel, demanding action against Dalton or risking her complete withdrawal from their covert operation. Imagine her standing tall in the sterile glow of a lab corridor, eyes locked on Sidwell as she lays bare the project's vulnerabilities. Dalton's interference not only jeopardizes their breakthroughs in medical research, but also exposes them to legal scrutiny that could dismantle everything. This bold stance stems from Britt's own precarious position, balancing her Huntington's diagnosis with the adrenaline of high-stakes science, making her ultimatum a desperate bid for control. If Sidwell heeds her warning, it might accelerate his plot to silence Dalton through insidious means, like a staged accident or anonymous threat that escalates to violence. Conversely, ignoring her could fracture the team, forcing Britt to seek alliances elsewhere, perhaps even looping in Jason for backup. Her involvement adds a layer of moral complexity as viewers ponder whether her push for elimination crosses into ethical gray areas, mirroring the show's timeless exploration of ambition's dark side. Sonny Corinthos, the ever-vigilant kingpin of Port Charles, shares a moment of stark realism with Laura Collins, urging her to brace for turbulence while clinging to glimmers of hope. In a quiet exchange at the Floating Rib, Sonny's gravelly advice, "Hope for the best, but gear up for the worst," resonates with Laura's innate optimism, tempered by her history of navigating political storms and family crises. This warning foreshadows Laura's unwitting entanglement in Sidwell's lethal conspiracy against Dalton, where her mayoral influence might inadvertently provide the leverage or cover needed for the plot to unfold. Picture Laura, her expression a mix of concern and resolve, piecing together whispers of academic scandals that hit too close to home, especially with her grandchildren caught in the crossfire. Sonny's insight draws from his own brushes with danger, offering tactical wisdom on alliances and contingencies, yet it heightens the suspense as Laura steps into the fray. Their dialogue peels back the layers of Port Charles' power dynamics, showing how personal connections amplify risks, and sets the stage for Laura's pivotal role in thwarting or unwittingly aiding the impending doom. Shifting to a more intimate interrogation, Jack Brennan corners an emotionally charged Carly Corinthos with pointed questions that probe her knowledge of the recent lab break-in. Brennan, his gaze sharp and unrelenting, senses inconsistencies in Carly's recent demeanor, from evasive glances to hurried explanations, fueling his growing suspicions about her divided loyalties. As tears well in her eyes, Carly insists she fully embraces him for the man he is, flaws, secrets, and all, a declaration laced with subtext she dare not voice aloud. In truth, her acceptance masks the bitter reality of Brennan's deceptions, including the peril he thrust upon Jocelyn Jacks through his covert operations tied to the WSB. This emotional plea unfolds in a rain-slicked parking lot, where Carlyle's vulnerability clashes with her inner steel, revealing her mastery of manipulation born from years in Sonny's orbit. Brennan, misreading her words as genuine affection, lowers his guard momentarily, unaware that Carlyle's game is a high-wire act of survival. Her tactics, subtle deflections, feigned empathy keep the truth at bay, but the strain hints at an impending crack, promising more twists in her dangerous dance with shadows of the past. General Hospital spoilers tease that Carlyle's deceptions will intensify, weaving her into the larger tapestry of betrayals and drawing her closer to the explosive fallout from Sidwell's scheme. Next, we will learn about the shocking twists brewing in Port Charles as Jen Sidwell's dark schemes threaten to unravel lives and shatter alliances in the week of November 17th to 21st. In the shadowy underbelly of Port Charles, whispers of foul play are growing louder, with Jen Sidwell emerging as the puppet master who might orchestrate the brutal murder of PCU Professor Henry Hank Dalton. This isn't just idle gossip, it's a calculated move that could ensnare Laura Collins in a web of unintended consequences, turning her life upside down just as she's fighting for her political survival. As November sweeps kick into high gear, the ABC soap is infamous for delivering jaw-dropping revelations, and this potential homicide fits right into that explosive tradition. Dalton, a minor player with no deep roots in the community, seems like the perfect sacrificial lamb, his elimination paving the way for chaos that ripples through the town's elite. Imagine the professor's lab, once a hub of academic pursuit, now a crime scene stained by betrayal. Sidwell's frustration boiling over from Dalton's repeated failures in advancing a clandestine project tied to the notorious Caesar Phazon. Yet, the real intrigue lies in how this plot could boomerang onto Laura, whose outspoken nature might make her the scapegoat in a meticulously laid trap. Fans have seen Sidwell's ruthless efficiency before. He's not one to leave loose ends dangling, especially when his ambitions for control over key territories are at stake. This storyline promises layers of deception, where every conversation and glance hides a motive, pulling viewers deeper into the moral quagmire of Port Charles. The drama escalates as Dalton's vendetta against young Rocco Falconeri takes center stage, his unyielding pursuit of justice or revenge painting him as a man on the edge. Rocco, the impulsive teen who dared to infiltrate the professor's secure lab, was initially facing only a minor reprimand from authorities, a slap on the wrist for what could have been chalked up to youthful curiosity. But Dalton, driven by a personal grudge that runs deeper than mere property damage, fabricates incriminating evidence to amplify the charges, twisting the narrative to portray Rocco as a destructive force. This act of sabotage directly defies a stern warning from Sidwell himself, who had urged restraint to avoid drawing unwanted attention to their shared secrets. Picture the courtroom tension on that fateful Friday, November 14th episode, where the planted clues surface like ghosts from the shadows, catching everyone off guard. Laura Collins, ever the vigilant grandmother, senses the frame-up immediately, her instincts honed from years of navigating Port Charles' treacherous politics. Her outrage boils over in a display of raw emotion, setting the stage for a public confrontation that could haunt her for weeks. In this heightened atmosphere, Dalton's obsession isn't just about punishment. It's a desperate bid to reclaim his tarnished reputation, blind to the larger forces at play. As the evidence mounts falsely against Rocco, it underscores the fragility of truth in a town where power brokers like Sidwell manipulate facts to suit their agendas, leaving innocent lives hanging in the balance. This subplot not only humanizes Rocco's reckless bravery, but also highlights the generational clash between protective elders like Laura and the unforgiving systems they battle. Come Monday, November 17th, the spotlight swings to Laura's fiery confrontation with Dalton, a moment primed to explode under the relentless glare of the press. As cameras flash and reporters clamor for quotes, Laura unleashes her fury, accusing the professor of corruption right there in the open. Her words captured on the record for the entire world to dissect. This outburst isn't mere anger, it's a desperate defense of her grandson's innocence, laced with the passion of someone who's seen too many injustices slide by unchecked. The timing couldn't be worse, coinciding with the heated mayoral election that's gripping Port Charles like a vice. Laura, the incumbent with a legacy of steady leadership, was cruising toward re-election with a comfortable lead, her platform rooted in community safety and transparency. But now, shadowy figures are closing in, and her bold stand against Dalton risks amplifying every whisper of scandal. Ezra Boyle, the oily city councilman nipping at her heels, must be rubbing his hands in glee behind closed doors. This controversy is manna from heaven for his smear campaign. Boyle's rise from the political fringes to a serious contender speaks volumes about the undercurrents of corruption in Port Charles. He's the kind of opportunist who thrives on others' misfortunes, his promises of change masking a hunger for influence. Laura's poll numbers, once a clear victory margin, have dwindled to a razor-thin edge, where one viral clip of her lashing out could sway undecided voters toward Boyle's camp. In this high-stakes game, Laura's integrity is her greatest asset and potential downfall, as she balances personal loyalty with the demands of public office, all while the media frenzy threatens to drown out her message of hope. Delving deeper into Sidwell's machinations, the week ahead reveals a chilling warning he delivers to a treacherous ally, a signal that betrayal won't be tolerated in his tightly controlled empire. Sidwell operates like a chess grandmaster, always 3 moves ahead, and Dalton has crossed him one too many times, first by stalling on the critical research for Faison's enigmatic final endeavor, then by resisting Britt Westburn's attempts to steer the project towards success. These missteps transformed Dalton from a useful asset into a dangerous liability, his defiance chipping away at Sidwell's patience. The framing of Rocco was supposed to be a minor diversion, a way to tie up loose ends without fanfare. But Dalton's insistence on pursuing it despite Sidwell's explicit orders marks him for elimination. Envision Sidwell in a dimly lit office, his voice low and lethal as he issues the ultimatum, eyes cold with the certainty of retribution. Yet, Sidwell's vision extends beyond personal grudges. He craves dominion over Sonny Corinthus's vital peers and surrounding district, assets that could fuel his illicit operations. Laura poses an equal threat in this pursuit, her mayoral authority blocking his expansions at every turn. Why not orchestrate a scheme that neutralizes both obstacles simultaneously? Sidwell's payroll includes Boyle, the councilman whose election would hand him the keys to the city, turning Port Charles into his personal fiefdom. This interconnected web of motives adds psychological depth to Sidwell, portraying him not as a cartoonish villain, but as a strategic force whose every action serves a grander design, forcing characters like Laura to confront the cost of standing firm against overwhelming odds. As the narrative hurtles toward its climax, General Hospital's previews tease a harrowing scene of Laura in sheer terror, clutching her car keys under the cover of night. The darkness envelops her like a shroud, amplifying the sense of isolation as she navigates the fog-shrouded streets of Port Charles, her mind racing with the day's turmoil. Suddenly, a sickening thud echoes as she struck something, or someone, in the road ahead. She stumbles from the vehicle, heart pounding, only to uncover a gruesome discovery that shatters her world: the lifeless form of Professor Dalton, sprawled in the headlights' glow. This hit-and-run illusion isn't random. It's the culmination of Sidwell's diabolical setup, timed perfectly with the midweek election to maximize devastation. With the polls open soon after, this accident could seal Laura's fate, branding her as reckless and unfit for office in the eyes of a scandal-weary public. Sidwell, the ultimate manipulator, likely stages the scene with Dalton already dispatched, perhaps by a hired hand in a quiet alley, positioning the body for Laura's unwitting involvement. The forensic details would be damning: tire marks matching her vehicle, fibers from her coat at the site, all fabricated to point unerringly at the mayor. In this twist, the soap explores themes of fate versus orchestration, where one woman's quest for justice collides with a villain's cold precision, leaving viewers questioning how far corruption can reach before heroes fight back. The fallout from Ezra Boyle's potential victory would reverberate through Port Charles, handing Team Sidwell a resounding triumph in their ongoing war against the town's guardians. With Boyle in the mayor's seat, Sidwell's influence would permeate every decision, from zoning laws favoring his peers' takeover to lax oversight on his shadowy dealings. This shift wouldn't just alter City Hall, it would embolden other antagonists, creating a domino effect of havoc for protagonists like Sonny, Laura, and their allies. Picture the victory party at Boyle's headquarters, champagne flowing as whispers of backroom deals circulate, a stark contrast to Laura's solitary reflection on her lost legacy. Yet, in true General Hospital fashion, this low point might ignite a fierce comeback, rallying the community against the encroaching darkness. Sidwell's short-term win underscores the soap's enduring appeal, the battle between light and shadow, where no character is truly expendable, and every twist promises redemption or deeper peril. As the week unfolds, the stakes feel personal, drawing fans into the emotional vortex of Port Charles' unyielding drama. Stay tuned, because in this town, the line between ally and enemy blurs with every passing hour, and the next revelation could change everything.